Hello and welcome to JR Digital Media. Today we're not going to be doing a review video, but it's an unboxing, and it's my first unboxing video. And what better product to unbox on this channel for the first time than the Panasonic HC-X1500 4K 60 frames per second camcorder. Let's look inside. So let's take a look at the box first. It's a box. It says Panasonic on all sides, and it has a handy plan view. It's not a plan view, is it? Side view of the camcorder. So Panasonic HC-X1500. I think it is actually called the X1500E, but they haven't put it on the box. Immediately what strikes out is the fact that they've put 4K on nearly every, no, it is in fact on every single side, because this is in fact the world's most compact 4K 60 frames per second camcorder. That's a bit of a mouthful. So on the top you've got AVC HD, HDMI, SDXC U3, Dolby Audio, Wi-Fi certified, and also does live streaming, which we'll come on to later on. Oh, and it also mentions a dual SD card slot, so that is something I'm looking forward to seeing. On the side you have 25mm wide angle, 24x optical zoom, a 5-axis hybrid OIS, which I think is optical image stabilization, but it's OIS plus, so great. There's also live streaming, as I've mentioned before. Really looking forward to using that. And 4K high precision autofocus. What else have you got? It says it's got a touchscreen, 3.5 inch wide LCD, power supply 50-60 Hertz. And I think that's about it. And it also says it's got batteries, obviously. This really is an honest unboxing because I have not had the chance to play around with this thing. I haven't even opened the box yet. So all my reactions are going to be honest, and they're all going to be live. So even I don't know what I'm going to be saying in this video. So to open up, I need a knife. Okay, I've got my knife, and yeah, let's take. This would probably be best if I stood up. Right, let's crack on. So, single piece of tape. That's always very secure. So I bought this camera for £1,400, 1,400 off of Amazon, which was the cheapest at the time. So about 2 weeks ago from filming this video. And I did see one for £1,300, but I wasn't sure. Second hand, the best price I saw was around £1,100. Not sure what the US conversion is. I'm sure I'll put it up here. £1,400 for a 4K 60 frames per second camcorder, which also does 120 frames per second slow motion at 4 HD, is not bad. And the fact that it can record for 10 hours continuously on 4K, and slow motion continuous is 5 hours. That's nothing. No DSLR can match that. And you can charge it whilst it's being used, which again, no DSLR out of the box is going to be able to do that. Right, so the first thing you get when you open the box is another box, of course, and obviously some manuals. Oh, that is quite thick. That is, you know what, I'm guessing that's going to be multiple languages. They've just shipped it all together, and I am right. There's English and French and European and European and European and European, and several European languages that I'm not too sure of. So we'll keep the English one aside, put the rest in the bag, put that over there. Right, let's see what we get in this little box at the top. Quite efficiently packed. Of course, it is our power cable and power brick. Obviously, I've gone for the UK standard, but I'm sure it comes with an EU one. Right, what else? Oh, and of course, we have our power brick. That is quite a compact unit. And look, there's a helpful little LED indicator to show you what the battery levels are like. This is apparently on 0%. Get rid of that. Next, you've got a little polystyrene cover. Put that aside. And a couple more papers. This looks like warranty papers. I'm sure I'll have to fill that in later. And of course, nothing else, just a video camera really. Let's take a look. Not that I'm disappointed. And here it is, the first ever look for me of the Panasonic X1500 4K camcorder. So let's start off with the outside first. They weren't lying when they said it was going to be compact. I mean, I haven't got the biggest hands in the world, nor the smallest, but you know, for me, an average 20 to 30-year-old, it sits really nicely. The handle's nice and soft on the skin, so there's not going to be any abrasive behavior on that side. But in terms of, you know, I've been holding it for a few minutes now, and it's got weight, but it's not dead weight, if you know what I mean. That's the basic unit. Let's work our way from left to right. Starting off with the lens section, you've got your lens hood at the front, which I believe if you press with one button, you can literally slip off, and it's that easy. There is a spring-loaded mechanism in the lens hood, which means you can protect your lens. To put it back on, all you have to do is line up the grooves, and there you go. That little click means that it's going to stay on. So the next section is the lens, and I believe that is a Leica or Leica Dicamo lens. I think I'm saying all of that incorrectly, so please don't rinse me in the comment section. So on top of the lens you do have two metal rings. One is for focus and one is for zoom. I don't know which way around that is yet, so we'll see how that goes. Next we come on to some built-in ND filters. So you've got clear, you've got a quarter light, 1/16 of the light penetrating through, and 1/64 of the light coming through to the sensor. Let's stick that back on clear. That's quite handy, so you don't need to waste time putting ND filters on, which if you're in a shoot can be quite a hassle. Right underneath the ND filter switches, you've got a dedicated button for choosing what type of focus. You've got autofocus, manual, and infinity. Right beneath that you have this rotatory multifunctional selector. That's quite neat. I'm guessing that's going to be useful when using the menu on your touchscreen Ultra HD screen that this comes with, the 3.5-inch LCD display. Below the screen you've got a couple of buttons: exit, menu, iris, gain, shutter, and then a switch for auto or manual mode. Then on the top you have a little stamp which says hybrid OIS. A little reminder, of course. Then you've got your user buttons, which I'm sure can be configurable to whatever you want. User 1, user 2. There's a user 3, but it also says OIS. I'm guessing that's pre-programmed with optical image stabilization, the 5-axis one that Panasonic's raving about. But I'm guessing you can configure that if you really need to. Now, moving on to the other side, we'll come to the screen a little bit later on. Actually, before we even move on to the other side, I mean, there is a noticeable difference between the thickness of this side and this side, and that's because when you're shooting in 4K for hours on end, the camera is going to heat up quite a bit, and to minimize that, Panasonic have included an awesome cooling unit right into the camera. Like, there's significantly large vents at the front and vents at the back as well. So along the cooling unit side there are very little, or actually no buttons there. There is a 3.5mm mic input, there is a remote input, I'm guessing that's a 2.5mm, and then you've got a micro AB USB input, or I'm guessing that's to access the storage. And they're all covered by these rubberized caps. That's quite neat because the inputs are right next to the vent, and you don't want the current flow to bring in and settle dust in your ports. On the top you've got your wide to telephoto zoom control. You can also use one of the rings, I don't know which one it is, but you have it right here, and that sits nicely when you hold the camera with the handle. And then there is another configurable button here called user 5. That is a total of 5 buttons so far that I've seen. And on the back or the rear of the unit, you have your viewfinder, of course. You have a HDMI port, a 3.5mm headphone jack, and a DC in for DC in 12 volt. And again, they've all got rubberized caps on them to keep the dust out. And of course, how can you miss it? There is this thumb-friendly record button, and on the bottom, nothing special, just a 1/4 inch threaded hole for your tripod. Okay, let's slide the battery in and see if we can get this thing turned on. So I'm guessing the LED chip goes out, so the battery simply slides in like that. Yep, it's definitely in there. And to eject it, there is this little battery ejector switch. Hold it up and slide the battery out. So once we've got the battery in, open up the screen, and on the inside you have your dual SD card slot right here with a handy see-through plastic cover. So you've got your slot 1 here, slot 2 here. I'm guessing you can select which slots you want to record on when both cards are inserted. Both slots will take anything up to 256 gig. I'm sure that is correct. And you can also record over onto the next card if the first card fills up, or you can record simultaneously to both cards. There's a lot of functionality there that you can choose from. Again, and a few more. Oh, there is user 4 configurable button, also labeled AE level, and then there's a button for white balance. There's a thumbnail button. I'm guessing that's to check out your recorded clips. There's a display mode check. I'm guessing that's display settings. And there is a on-off button right here, which is more metallic than all the other buttons. Give that a quick click and the camera turns on, and it's pitch black because the shutter is closed. Let's open that up. Right, okay, so the screen I am very impressed with. First thoughts, just crystal clear. There's very good color representation on this, and I cannot fault it. To be honest, when I bought this, I didn't even know this was touchscreen. You open up straight away, there's a lot of information on the screen. You've got your recording frame rate and your write speed, and at the bottom you've got your audio channels. There's 2 of them, so I'm guessing there's 2 microphones built into the camera unit. You've got the ND filter status, it says clear, so I'm guessing that's quite handy when you don't have to keep looking at the side of the camera. And that's about it for now. There is an MF in the bottom right hand corner, which I suspect is the focus. Yeah, that's the manual focus, and I'm guessing if I press the auto button, yeah, that changes it to AF. That is autofocus at the bottom right there. And you've also got a zoom number. There's a Z with a 0 whatever after it, and the more you zoom in, the higher that number gets. Right, that's the ins and outs of the outside of the unit. Let's take a look at the basic setup for using this camera for the first time. I'm not going to run into anything in too much detail because that will be coming later on in a full review video after I've had a chance to play around with this thing. Okay, so you've unboxed your camera, you want to start shooting with it and playing around with it. What's the first thing you're going to do after inserting the battery and charging it for a while, etc. and opening the shutter at the front? That's right, you're going to put in your SD card, and I have gone for a micro SD with adapter. This is the SanDisk Extreme Pro 256 gig U3A2 V30 card, and I chose this card because it does up to 90 megabytes per second write speed and 150 megabytes per second read speed, which is quite fast and important when you're shooting in 4K. So you slot the card in and you'll get a blinking yellow LED which will stop flashing when you're all good to go. And once you put your SD card in, you'll have a number 1 representing slot number 1 coming up at the top of your screen with a number in minutes of how long you can record for on that card. If you were to put a second card in, you will have slot 2 with the number of minutes you can record on that card. Right now I'm in 1080 Full HD at 60 frames per second, and I can record 339 minutes on that one 256 gig card. So now that the SD card's in, let's take a look at the main menu and see what we can play around with for basic use. I'm not going to go into any detail, maybe go through how to change the frame rate and maybe look at auto and manual mode very quickly. So to get into the menu, I'm sure there's a menu button, and we know there is, right underneath the screen section. Click that and you're presented with a couple of options. You've got camera, scene file, audio, video out, LCD VF, recording, network, system, and others. Now I have had a chance to look at a basic user manual, so I do in fact know that to go and change the frame rate you would have to go down to system, probably not the best description. I would have thought it would have been a recording, and obviously you might be sitting there playing around with all these menu settings before you find out what each one of them does. So we go to system, and now you're presented with the frequency if you want to be in PAL or NTSC or NTCS, I don't know which way around that is. So you've got 60 Hz and 50 Hz. Next, you can choose the type of file, so file format, you can have movie type, you can have MP4, or you can have AVC HD, depending on what you are comfortable working with. So I've got various types of write speeds on 4K, 60 frames per second, I can go 30 frames per second, I've got 24 frames per second, which is what I use in my standard filming. Then I can go down to full HD 60 frames per second, full HD 30 and full HD 24 frames per second. So you can choose one of these options depending on what type of filming you're doing. Now to go out of the menu, all you have to do is click the exit button until you're back on your main screen. Now if you want to record, all you have to do is press the record button on the back, and then you've got a little red dot on your screen right next to the SD card slot number, and your timer is going off in the top left corner. And to stop recording, all you have to do is press the record button again. Your red dot will flash while it's saving. And once it's saved and ready for you to view, the red dot will disappear and you can click thumbnail and click on the file that you've just recorded. It is touchscreen. What I will say about the touchscreen is it does feel a little bit spongy, but not in a way that it's unusable. It's just my Canon 90D does have a better touchscreen than this. But you are presented with a wide array of configurable buttons, and that handy little spinning disc at the front makes life a lot easier. One last thing I do want to cover is how you shoot in slow motion on the Panasonic X1500. This is a bit convoluted and I don't understand why Panasonic has done it this way. You may think that there's a configurable button that you can use to click and it will turn into a slow motion friendly frame rate and you can start recording easy as that. No. So let's say you normally shoot in 4K and that's what the camera is set up to, and you want to configure one of these buttons to be your super slow mode. First of all, you would have to go into your menu. Once you're in your menu, go to Camera, User SW, and then here you can configure one of your 8 user buttons to be super slow. I've set User 1 as my super slow, so all you have to do is User 1 and then pick what you want to configure that button as. We're going to go with super slow. So that's all done, and you try and push it whilst you're in 4K mode. It says invalid. Now that is because you need to go to menu again, go to system, change the frame rate to 1080p. It can be anything, 60 frames per second, 30 frames per second, does not matter, and go back. And now if I press user 1, which is my configured slow motion button, the system resets itself, and now you have a little indicator right next to your frame rate on your screen saying S slow 120 frames per second. Now I don't know why Panasonic has gone through so much trouble to hide away the slow motion functionality, but from what I've seen it looks awesome, and by the time you're watching this I'm going to cut to a slow motion clip that I've shot with this camera just so you can see how awesome this is as well. But all in all, I am very pleased with my purchase. Each camera I buy keeps getting better and better. I have no concerns with my Canon 90D that I bought back in January. Still working perfectly for me, it has not faulted me in any way, and now I have my Panasonic X1500 to take my videos to the next level. I cannot wait to shoot some clips on this. In fact, for this video, I'm going to make a little cinematic reel with 4K footage and full HD slow motion footage, just so you have a sense of what you can do with this camera. Well, I hope you enjoyed this unboxing video, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on my full-length review of the Panasonic X1500. And if you already own this camera, let me know in the comments below on what you like and dislike about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.
Please like, comment and subscribe.
I'll put that at the end.